So another video I'm going to touch upon is this system that's called the Wavenator. Now the Wavenator is quite, I don't know how this pans out on YouTube, whether I turn the phone, if it makes it a problem or not, but there we go. The only way I can get this all to fit on here. So here we have a series of Wavenators. Now these are no good to me, okay? So these should be given out to any power company that wants to use them. Take them, because this is no good to me. Now whatever you need, understanding more input, putting in, come and ask me, send me an email, help me to help you explain the system. So this is no good for me, but I tell you what, this will be beneficial for you, especially with the Tesla battery as well. You can give more power into this. Now how this works is it uses the ocean to make power. Now there are several different ways that this can be used to make the power needed. Now I'm going to try and flip through this as best as I can and hold the phone at the same time, so do bear with me. So as you can see, the wave direction is going to go this way, and we also have the wave direction that goes also back again. So when these are very tall, so if you take your highest wave, and these are what we call the runners inside here. These are the runners. As you can see, each one has a different direction of movement depending on the teeth. So if this one's this way around and you take another one and turn it up the other way. Now these go really high, so higher than your average wave. So if you've got really high waves, just chopping through. I noticed this on the oil rig platforms, which you installed some good cameras on there which let you see the waves, and from that I was able to go with this. So, and yeah, we have sat down and tried to figure this out as best as we can. There will be some more updates added onto the website for this one. Now these are the floats, and they pivot, and they've got to pivot. If they don't pivot, they'll break, and they've got to be really tall, and so much more taller than the average wave. And you've got to take into consideration tides. So high tide, low tide, these are not going to really work in low tide, but depends how far back out into the oceans you put them. And if you run them in series that go back into the ocean and further back, you end up catching this receding waves, if you like. Then come in and the tide goes out, and it comes in and it goes out. This will capture that. Now the reason why they've got to be really tall is because if the wave comes over this, it could potentially pull it out of the ground. That's not what you want to do, to be honest. So in order to stop that, we make them very big. Now as the wave comes, the floats are these here. I don't know if you can see that. Now you can put anything in there. Now I first initially thought of helium, and to put helium inside these floats was because helium is quite light in the atmosphere, but if you think about it and you put helium underwater and you had a helium balloon versus an oxygen balloon, I am reckoning the helium balloon will reach the surface of the ocean before the oxygen balloon, based on buoyancy, which I think that should probably work like that. I'm not 100% sure, but if you were to let go of it'd probably be the weirdest thing to see, to be honest. If you were to have two balloons under the ocean that could cope with the pressure, and you were to release both of these balloons, it would be really weird that the one with helium would rise up really quickly, and once it breached the layer of the ocean where the ocean meets oxygen level, atmosphere, I think it'd just keep going up, whereas the other one would just stop on top of the water, and it will not leave the atmosphere, the one with oxygen in it, because it's going to what it is. So helium, if there are any other lighter gases that are out there, and then it would make sense to use those as well. So I don't know if ozone is even lighter than helium. I'm not 100% sure, and if that is the case, then fill these with ozone. And if you had a balloon under the ocean with oxygen, helium, and one filled with ozone, I've got a question. Can science go out and test this theory and find out which one floats to the surface quicker? Which one gets there quicker? And then this should give you a rough idea of what is needed to go inside these floats to make it more beneficial. So yes, oxygen will sit on the ocean, maybe good enough. Filling these up with too much helium might make them float too high. That could also be a problem, but I doubt it. You need to, it's a right level of balance. So it would need to stay stationary, but become, you know, you want this to react like it's allergic to water. So it rises. And in this rising and falling, we'll get onto that in just a second, but yeah. So what gas do you put inside here? Well, number one, you need to find out which one is really, really, really light when it comes to compared with water. Which one in the atmosphere of the gases is the most, one that goes upwards is what you want. And then the next level is you need a careful calculation of how heavy the float is versus the, because you don't want it to be filled with helium and the whole thing stays stuck upwards, because that won't work either. That's very detrimental. So you want this fine balance, but you want it to be more lighter when water runs under it, so that the water doesn't end up running over it, it runs under, so it lifts it. And with this lifting is what will cause the power to be generated off of the waves. I like to call this process, other than Wavenator, is the very best of the West. Yeah, this can go anywhere on the globe, but we've got to be able to perfect it first and get this just right, that it's able to generate large amounts of energy that is 24/7 as far as I see it. Yes, despite tide receding and coming in, and high and low tide, never mind all of that. Depends where you put these in the ocean. And if you take oil rigs, for example, the waves that crash up into those is absolutely incredible. So if you take the oil rig as a platform that lifts and falls, you already technically have a Wavenator in the making. Now it's tweaking that energy to give you power. So that's kind of in that principle. This is this principle right now. We just move on from that. And I'm going to pause it so I can just have a quick think about my next set of words. Whew. So, you know, I love it for the bonuses that this gives. So it's 24/7 clean power continuously. Now, there's several ways to get power from it, and one of them is to turn turbines via a gear and link system, like you have a bicycle. And because the ocean is quite strong, it is very, very strong, and using this force of that ocean is where you can power the tough gear to spin a wheel really fast, which would be the motor. That's one way. Maybe that one is not the best way. The second one is a more direct approach via linking them directly to turbines. So for every time it lifts, it will turn the turbine. Every time one drops down, it will also complete the full revelation, or the cycle, the rotation, sorry. And it will complete a full rotation based on one wave going up into one Wavenator. Will turn it half a clock, if you like, in one direction, and one of the other Wavenators beside it that falls will pull it the rest of the way. That's all to do with the teeth, depending on which way you do the teeth. If the teeth lock this way and lift, and then they slip back down, and then the other way is if it locks when it goes up but slips when it goes down. The same way you have a door mechanism is the best way I can explain this in a way that everybody can understand, is when you've got your latch on your door, this way is the locking. This way locks, and if you've got it on the smooth side on the other side, such as this way slips, so this will slip. And that's how the Wavenator teeth work. It's not as strong as a door, because the spring in there is pretty strong. So if one falls versus its weight, it slips. If it goes this way, it locks. I can't slip off of that. So it locks in, and that's how the teeth work, is much like a door. So, you know, slipping gives you the motion where it'll just fall down and it won't affect the spindles. The spindles are these right here. These are the spindles here. And then you've got your teeth inside here that lock inwards one way. As you can tell, it slips like on the door, and then the other way locks in to the other teeth that go up. And this is what allows the rise and fall motion that you can get off of these, which then can generate power. Now, the third way with the Wavenators is to tighten a clockwork mechanism. And once they've fully tightened, have them release their energy into a turbine. This one relies a lot on calculation and right timing. Synchronicity is another part of this, I believe, would be beneficial. So when one has wound all of its clockwork up and its mechanisms, the spring is nice and tight from the ocean, slowly but surely winding this up. And then another one, and another one, and another one is all fully wound, let's say. So let's say if you have 100 of these that are fully wound, and 100 of them have just finished discharging that energy into a turbine. So one's sitting there spinning off whilst the other ones are tightening. Whilst this is spinning, this one then runs out, and then immediately this one starts to release its energy whilst this one starts tightening. So 100 are tightening whilst 100 are releasing, and then you want to swap the release, swap, 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 swap. And whilst you're doing this, you are generating continuous motion into a turbine. Or turbines, because you can link these all together, have turbines that are stacked up somewhere well away from the Wavenators, so there's no water and electricity risk being mixed, and the clockwork mechanism stays more closer to the Wavenator, and their energy is transported via either a chain mechanism, I don't know how you would like to fit that in, and via it doing this, it will pull a chain that then is constantly you'll have a flywheel that moves from one that's discharging, and once this is finished discharging, it moves into the next one that starts to discharge. And this is like a freewheel or flywheel that's always connected to the motor or turbine. And this will continuously always be spinning for when it moves from one to the other. And this is what will generate continuous power 24/7. So another double bonus to this, I'm not 100% sure. When I sit here and I process this within my mind and I can see this working, I often wonder how the waves respond to this. Now, waves are always going to be generated because of the way they are created. So with this in mind, you could say that they're going to hamper the ability of the waves. Yes, it will. It literally will. It is. You could look at this as a problem, but I think erosion is a far more worse problem that we've got experiencing on our coastlines than... You see, I think that's environmentally dangerous, having waves keep on eroding away each and every year our coastlines, and the land mass is getting smaller and smaller over a longer period of time and eroding away. And this has become quite a big problem. And as long as we're able to, and now and again, chuck in some sands and different elements off of the land. You know, if you're going to dig a hole somewhere inland, go and tip it into the sea so that you keep this mineral content going. Because we don't want to stop one cycle. We want to have a cycle that we impact to generate electricity, which is a new cycle, but we don't want to stop or interfere with the natural cycle of mixing all of this nutrients. So a way around that is choose. You choose. We as humanity choose what we want to put into the ocean that can be mixed up in this soup. So if you're digging a hole somewhere over there and it's like, we got a ton of this type of soil sediment, and we put the Wavenators in, and it's going to, I see it slowing down the erosion rate. That's the disadvantage, right? And we'll have in the future some protests saying that we need more erosion, we need to keep up with the natural balance. And I agree, and I'm laughing not because it tickles my sense of humor, this does, in a way that yes, okay, we need to stop erosion where we can control it, and we can let the sea erode things that, you know, we've dug a hole somewhere and now we don't know where to put this new soil, or where are we gonna put this? I ain't got nowhere to put it. Stick it in the ocean and let the ocean deal with this churning of that. It does it naturally anyway. So there's one thing. it's very beneficial that you can get this, and you know, motors technology will increase, and the resistance of motors burning out too soon will also stop, because you know, when you start to build something for a purpose repeatedly, whether it be cars, whether it be turbines, and you keep going with it, you become better and better and better and better and better, and you find even more energy efficient ways to create a turbine that doesn't burn out, it lasts longer, and it's able to produce more energy, which is wonderful if we can excel this. But the only way to excel it is via inventions such as these. So yeah, I've got to pause it because I got to charge my phone.